What is up, guys? So this is a pretty weird one, a video I never thought I'd actually have to make, but AD carries are so bad right now that a lot of people are replacing them with mages who literally do their jobs but just better. If this carries on, all these marksmen are going to be knocking on Overwatch door looking for jobs, but let's just get into why this is actually happening. And also the reason I'm kind of making it now is because Ghostcrawler, which is Riot's head designer, also made a post about this yesterday, so I thought this might be a good time to talk about it. So if you want to see a tier list tomorrow, by the way, of the best you can actually stick bot lane who are probably better than AD carries, then throw the video a like and let me know in the comments and I'll get that done for tomorrow. So this comes down to a bunch of things really all put together, like why this is actually happening right now. AD carries have this problem naturally actually, where by design they're supposed to be good later. You're focused on auto attacks, which is AD based damage, right? And mages really are just champions who get their damage from Q, W, E, and R, so from their abilities. It's hard to balance just because of that, because you're balancing auto attacks versus abilities, two completely separate things. So the biggest problems right now is AD carries are pressured a bit too much, right? There's too many ganks and early attention where AD carries actually can't do anything when that happens. There's no real impact in the game. It doesn't matter how you play or what you do in the game because you're not the deciding factor normally. Like, it doesn't feel like you're actually doing much. That's the next one. You just have no damage compared to others who build tank and deal damage, or who actually deal damage and deal more. It doesn't feel like we do very much anymore. So those are the problems, but why do AD carries suck more in season 7 than normally actually? And it's really because our power curve has changed. This is why I've been trying so many new builds on the channel and stuff, the Trinity Lucian, the Black Cleaver Draven. I'm trying to find things that basically start to work earlier into the game, because that is what we need to be useful. There were two massive changes in season 7. The first one was to Fervor, which was on hit damage that scaled well the entire game. Even early, it was going to be good. It meant that any auto-based champion had more damage naturally, just regardless of build or design or whatever the champion was, they were going to do a bit more damage with Fervor. It also meant that slightly weaker champions could use that on hit damage because it works a little bit different in certain ways with their kit. So like Lucian's 2 passive shots, that actually stacked Fervor and applied it fully, which was really good. The other one was flat armor pen. That was the biggest problem last season, was there was too effective, right? It was so good early that it did the opposite of what happened now. Lethality was just like a failure, let's be honest. It didn't really have the desired effect really at all, and removing that and Fervor meant we shifted too much to late game things. Now we have Warlords and Lifesteal, which by nature is just better when you have more damage, so it's going to be better late game. Crit builds, again, by design, it's better with more attack speed because you're attacking fast, you have more chance to crit and a higher crit chance, which means you need more crit items. That requires basically 3 items now to get crit working in an AD carry's favor and to become worth the gold investment and to become stronger than other people in the game. We also have the additional problem now of like a kind of tanky meta, and we need arm pen on top of that. So if they have a tank, then you really need 4 items to be useful, which is a lot. That is a lot of gold in the game to actually be useful and do damage. So really, whatever anyone says about AD carry, whatever like your friends tell you and stuff, underneath it all, that is why they're doing so much worse in season 7. Everything piled on top is true and making it worse, but that is the biggest issue at the moment just because of how the game is. For me personally, bot lane is rarely ever a 2v2 anymore. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but either my team roams down to make it a 4v2 or their team roams down to make it a 2v4. It goes both ways, right? So I'm not really complaining too much, but what I don't like is either way, I don't really feel like I'm even doing anything. If we win bot lane, it's probably because my team ganked and put me ahead, but if we lose bot lane, it's probably because I got ganked and they put me behind. Either way, the AD carry doesn't really do much in those ganks. They don't really do anything. They're taken along for the ride. Even the supports are going to do more in those ganks. The other problem is the games are shorter now in this season, or at least they're kind of heavily decided in a shorter space of time. So towers are easier to take in my opinion, dragons are more impactful, and roaming has become much more important. AD carries have had their builds slowed down, right? So we're now like a 3 or 4 item monster, and once we get them, we can carry for sure. Like at that point, it's not the problem, it's before then. By the time we do get those items, the game is most likely decided either way. Either my team has won the game for me and got a big lead, which I can close out, or their team has got a big lead and are steamrolling over mine. Even though I do damage now at 3 or 4 items, they're going to do a lot more because of that extra gold. And either way, it doesn't really feel like we're doing much. So this is where we get our mages to take back some control. I mentioned Ziggs like 3 weeks ago, I think. It was working really well, made a lot of sense, and it's not a surprise now that it's doing so much better and it's much more popular. Mages do a very similar job to AD carry anyway, just in a different way, and that different way is better in season 7. It's funny because we've kind of come full circle. In season 1, we had a mages bot lane, which were basically doing the same jobs, but the bigger thing really, like reason why the mages are there, is because they spike earlier. Mages scale with levels and with items, but levels more so than AD carries. There's 2 types of damage in the game. There's base and there's kind of like scaling or bonus, I guess. Base is just what the ability does normally, so the flat damage value on there. The scaling is the AP or AD ratio, or if you want to buff your autos, you can probably throw that in there as well. Your base damage though is scaling with your levels more than anything else, actually with your rank. So if you get a better rank in your ability, it's going to do more damage. That is why mages are so much better said earlier, because they get rank 5 in their main damage source, the damage is coming from that ability, the base damage does a lot more, and then items buff it on top of that base later. AD carries do not rely on abilities as much, which means ranks don't really mean as much. Autos are buffed by items, which takes more time than levels to get, and that is why mages are going to scale better than AD carries into the early game. When you compare the two actually though, there are a lot of things that are very similar, like wave clear with a mage or an AD carry. You push the AD in, you get a free lane, and you get tower damage. It also stops the enemy pushing you in and taking your towers. Poking and sieging, apart from killing stuff, AD carries are actually the best tower takers in the game really. Well, they're supposed to be anyway. Mages are pretty good at getting this percentage of their AP converted to tower damage, and they also have range and probably better poke, to be honest. They also have late game damage. Mages we're looking at have good AP ratios too, which means they have good late game. They can still compete with AD carries. Now, AD carries are supposed to be better consistent DPS, and they probably are, but like a Ziggs, for example, can one-shot a ton of people if he hits them just right. That is the other thing. They have AoE damage, and most AD carries only hit one person, and they do a lot of damage. They kill them very fast, but mages often hit multiple and kill everyone fast. Utility side of things, they're going to bring something extra to the table. So a Ziggs satchel, for example, right? Minefield to slow them down and stop people chasing. AD carries don't tend to have as much utility. If they do though, it's at the expense of damage. If you think about it, Ashe doesn't do as much damage as like Vayne, for example, because she has more utility. Same with someone like Sivir. They also finally have better roaming, which means they can impact the rest of the map a lot easier. Most mages are really designed with the idea that they're going to be played mid lane, right? And they will move from mid to impact other lanes. They can be more independent and not rely on their team as much. That is the final real big pro of having a mage in the bot lane, is they can look after themselves. They can often self-peel. Cassiopeia has her ultimate, for example, satchel or minefields from Ziggs. Like, these people can actually keep themselves safe rather than a lot of AD carries who need help. So basically what we're looking for if we're going to actually do this is consistent damage, earlier damage, wave clear, poke and siege, extra utility, or they're just more versatile in a bunch of different situations. I do have a lot of these that I think are better than AD carries in their current state. So if you want to see that, then let me know, like the video, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching until the end, but for now, let's go to the robots.